Good morning, everybody. It's Eric with Premier Pack, and talk a little canines over coffee this morning. Got my Minions mug today. Isn't that fun? Brightens me up a little bit. So, I want to talk about the importance of using a dog crate. Many people find the dog crate distasteful. They don't like the idea of it. Well, I'm going to talk about the benefits of it. First of all, and foremost, it saves dogs' lives. I'll tell you why. It can keep them from getting into things that could potentially harm and kill them. So if they were not to the point where they understood what it was on and off limits and got into something and adjusted it, it kills dogs. Secondly, a dog outside the crate can get into things and destroy the person's home and property and furniture. It can cost high vet bills as well. And before you start thinking my dog wouldn't die if it hurt my furniture. Well, reality is, if that keeps on happening, these are the dogs that get turned into the shelters. Because the homeowner or the owner of the dog can't deal with it. And don't judge that situation unless you've been through it, because it is terrible. So, the solution to so many things here is the crate. It can also help with training. It can keep dogs from getting into a lot of bad habits that won't have to be corrected in the future. Among them is separation anxiety, which is a huge pain if you have to deal with that. So, consider the crate. I want to go over a few different ways to use it and rules with a crate. Okay? So, a lot of times I might hear somebody give the reason why they don't want to use the crate as, I don't like the idea of locking my dog up, or he doesn't like the crate. I tell you both are going to have to get over it. And I want to give you a little perspective and illustration here. You keep your baby in a crib, right? Why? It's so it won't harm itself by getting into things that it would hurt it when you can't supervise. Even when your children are even to the teenage years, you expect them to spend the entire night in their bedroom, right? Again, you don't want them getting into things or exposing themselves to things that could possibly be harmful and not the way you want to raise your children. So, same thing goes with the dog. You are limiting what it can get into and properly supervising your dog in that way. So, one thing that helps is keeping your crate in a living area and using it throughout the day. So, not just every time I put you in the crate, we're leaving and I'm not going to see you for hours. That causes a little anxiety with the dogs, and that becomes something that they don't like, because they don't like to be away from you necessarily, right? So if going in the crate means they're not going to see you for hours, well, that can develop a bad association. So if you have your crate in a living area and throughout the day expect your dog to lay in it, even locked up, while you're watching TV, cooking dinner, or eating dinner, various times throughout the day, that will make the crate not that big of a deal and won't necessarily have the association of every time I'm in the crate, you're leaving. You might even want to stage leaving and coming back really quick. So that helps with the dog. Another thing too is make the crate inevitable. Okay, some dogs will fight going into the crate, but if you stick with it and calmly but firmly put your dog in the crate and expect it to stay there, it will be very quickly that the dog will not put up a fight at all, because it realizes that it doesn't matter if he fights, he's going in the crate. So picture instead a dog who struggles, whines, barks, and fights about going in the crate, and you don't put him in the crate. Well, guess what happens every time you want to put him in the crate? He's learned that he can whine, bark, fight, and struggle to get what he wants. So that's what you're going to get. So work through that, make the crate inevitable. Now, behavior in the crate is important as well. You want the crate to be a place of relaxation. The reality is dogs sleep most of the time. So some would say provide stimulation to your dog, such as a chew toy or bone or a Kong with peanut butter in it or something like that to occupy his time. Well, that's all stimulation, isn't it? You want your crate to be a place of calm and relaxation for your dog. So I don't like those things in it. I mean, maybe a bone, just as long as it's not too stimulating to the dog. Okay? You want to limit the stimulation. We just want the dog to relax and sleep. We don't allow barking. We don't allow whining. We don't allow pacing. Definitely not digging or pulling on the bars. None of that is allowed. Has to be immediately addressed. So when they get in there, they realize I can't go through A, B, or C, and what's left is laying down and relaxing. And that's the position you want your dog in the crate, is laying down and relaxing. Pretty soon, it's just going to be that place to relax. And that's what you want, right? So, a good rule of thumb with keeping your dog in a crate, because it's sporadic with me. You know, I do sometimes, I don't other times. But my dogs have been trained and they are pretty trustworthy in the house. But if you get a new dog, whether it's a puppy or a new adult dog, whatever the situation, when it comes into the new home, new environment, new people, it's going to have to learn new rules, boundaries, and limitations, right? So if you keep your dog in the crate while it's learning these rules and boundaries and limitations, the better off it'll be. And a good rule of thumb is to keep it in there the first 6 months when you can't immediately supervise. So that means even when you're just around the house, but maybe in a different room or on a different floor. Okay, that way you know where the dog is at. And it's actually good to keep it in a separate room too sometimes, because the dog is not always following you around, which can develop a separation anxiety issue in the future. So 6 months whenever you can supervise. 1 year every time you leave the house. The first year every time you leave the house. I'm sorry. The first year when you never go to sleep. Right? And then 2 years. The first 2 years whenever you leave the house. So 6 months whenever you can supervise, first year whenever you're asleep, and the first 2 years whenever you leave the house. So after that, there's been the stage of all these habits forming, and none of them have included getting into things they shouldn't be getting into. So you don't have to necessarily worry so much about it tearing up the furniture or tearing up the carpet or getting into the garbage, things along those lines. But make sure you use the crate. It is a very beneficial tool. Don't feel bad about it. Don't let anybody else make you feel bad about it. Okay? The dogs don't. They'll get used to it and they'll be fine with it. You make it a place that the dogs find enjoyable, and that's fine. Like I said before, you don't feel bad about expecting your children to stay in the room all night long or putting your baby in a crib or playpen, right? It's for their own benefit. So even if you might feel bad, do what you gotta do, because it's to their own benefit and it will be to your benefit as well. All right. Hope you got something out of this. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all the support. Have a good one. Eric from Premier Pack. I'll talk to you later.